Welcome to the Liberty Talks podcast with John Douglas and Michael Anderson. Today we'll be speaking about how drag queens are reading to your kids in the Houston Public Library. Elizabeth Warren is 1 and 1024th Indian. Louis Farrakhan goes full racist once again, and 800 libertarian accounts get banned from Facebook.
We have to find a way to talk and have dialogue and be tolerant between other views.
You have to have open dialogue, and that's where free speech is so important.
Consent's a very important thing, and today in the Me Too movement, it's been very important because I think it's really opened up a lot of eyes.
I think we should get away from this hookup culture and get back to relationships, because when you have a relationship, you have that communication, you have that connection.
If you committed sexual assault, it doesn't matter when it was, you should be held accountable for that. However, we have to make sure that we actually make sure they committed sexual assault, and we have to make sure that all allegations are verified.
They'll put in these programs thinking that it'll help everyone, but what they forget is that the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions.
And I think that's what this whole movement is all about anyways, is trying to be open to ideas.
Remember when the Democrats wanted to allow men to enter women's public bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms? We fought them and we won. Now Democrats want drag queens to read to our little children in public libraries.
Who wants to be a drag queen when they grow up?
We've shut them down before, and with your support, we will shut them down again. Vote to protect our children. Stop the Democrats. Vote straight Republican. Political ad paid for by Campaign for Houston PAC.
Start off talking about how this is from the party. This ad that we're talking about is not from the party. In fact, it's from one or two people. So I don't know of one candidate who is behind this. I look at our party as a big open tent. And within that tent, we have groups like the Log Cabin Republicans. We have a lot of different groups out there. As long as you believe in the fundamentals, low taxes, limited government, and a strong national defense, we welcome you. That means you're a Republican.
That was an ad paid for by the Campaign for Houston and Justin Lurie on the Isaiah Factor last night. Essentially what's going down is there is a trans reading hour in Houston Public Library, or in the Houston Public Library, or maybe many of them, and there is this one campaign. You know, obviously you see that's saying, oh, well, we need to vote Republican and we need to get, drag queens out of the out of the bathrooms. We need to get drag queens out of the libraries. But we also put Justin Lurie in there because what he said I really thought was amazing. You had the guy that paid for the campaign, and then you had two Democrats or two left-leaning individuals on the Isaiah Factor as well. But what Justin said stood out to me. It's what I think most Republicans agree, and how the Republican Party is starting to act. We're a big tent party. We're welcome to different people. Like Justin said, we have the Log Cabin Republicans, which are known for, supporting the LGBT community and being a part of the LGBT community. And so I thought what he said really stood out, and I got to give a shout out to Justin Lurie. You got to check him out. He ran against Dan Crenshaw, so he's a former Republican congressional candidate. What do you think about that, John? Like, do you think we need to ban drag queens from going into our public libraries in Houston?
Of course not. I don't think we should ban drag queens from going to any location because they do have the right to free speech. They do have the right to be in that library. Their tax dollars did pay for it. So, of course, they can go in there. My objection is parents bringing their kids to this drag queen reading. I'm sorry, but if you bring your kids to something like this and expose them to transgenderism and drag queens and they're like 6 years old, I'm sorry, you're a bad parent, because now you're confusing your kids about gender and gender dysphoria, and you're making them think it's okay to be a different gender when that would just confuse them, and that could have really damaging effects for them.
Well, that's another conversation we could have. But it's like you said, ultimately people can do whatever they want. If you saw that episode, you could actually look it up on Fox 26. Check out the Isaiah Factor Monday through Friday at 10:30 p.m. on Fox 26 in Houston. He said that it's males that just dress up as women. So they're actually not transgender. They're just people that like to dress up as the opposite sex. But that, that's just giving some context behind it. But it's like you said, their taxpayer dollars go into it. The other Republican, I can't even remember his name, and I don't think he's worth mentioning. He's the guy that pays for Campaign for Houston. He said, "Oh well, of course, they're using taxpayer dollars." And it's like, well, it's they pay taxes too. It'd almost be like, well, we're going to ban them from a public park because they're trans or because they're doing something I disagree with. I mean, this is ultimately a civil rights issue in itself too, because they're trying to ban people just because they're different from public places.
Right. Obviously, we shouldn't discriminate people from their viewpoints or what they look like or who they are. If they want to go into a library and teach, that's fine. Or read, that's fine. They have the right to do that. Now, the only problem I would have is, like, if, let's say, the state was forcing this upon kids. There's been a lot of documented cases, especially in California, of kids teaching, like, second and third graders about sex and transgenderism and about being gay and lesbian, and how that's okay, even though they're all second and third graders, as if they need that confusion in their lives at that point because they're not old enough to know it. So, thankfully, the government's not doing that, especially in Texas. So if these people want to go and read books to kids, I mean, that's their prerogative. They can do that. If parents think that it's beneficial to take their kids to that, that's on them too. I would have strong disagreements with them, but like I said, they have the right to do that.
I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. That is why we live in the United States of America, so we can do what other people disagree with without backlash from the state. I can drink, I should be able to drink and smoke what I want, but I can drink what I want, I can go where I want, I can do what I want, I can say what I want, as long as I'm not hurting anybody. Mostly, that's how it should be, at least in my view. But most of the time in America, you can do those kind of things. And this is just outrageous, and it's outrageous. I think Justin Lurie, you get a round of applause from me. You did like a tremendous job when saying, "Hey, look, this is not by the Republican Party. I don't know a candidate doing this. This is one person." I mean, people, this is not by the Republican Party, and Justin, keep on doing what you're doing. What I think you said something. You were saying something about our podcast earlier. I think were we having a technical difficulty or something? What was that?
So I'm gonna have to apologize to everyone listening, but this podcast is gonna have to be 1 1,024th of the usual length. So we're gonna have to move into Elizabeth Warren really quick.
Oh yeah, okay, 1 in 1,000. Okay, I see what you did there. Oh, I see. Dad jokes here on the Liberty Talks podcast.
So for everyone that doesn't know, Elizabeth Warren took a DNA test. And because Trump drove her insane, calling her Pocahontas all the time, and basically accusing her of using her native ancestry to get into Harvard Law School and become a professor whenever she didn't actually have any native ancestry. So Elizabeth Warren does the greatest thing I've ever seen, and he goes and takes a DNA test and comes back and espouses that she is now a Native American. She has proof that she's a Native American. And what's her proof? Her proof is that she, in her DNA test, that she might have, at one point, had an Indian ancestor from 6 to 10 generations ago, making her effectively 1 in 1,024th Native American, but not even North American, like not Cherokee as she claims, but as South American, Peruvian, or Colombian Indian. So it's really funny, and the next funniest part is that the average white person in the U.S. is about 0.115 Native American. Elizabeth Warren is less than that. She is 0.0056 or something around there, Native American. So she's less Native American than the average white person. She's literally one of the whitest people in the U.S. So just an amazing thing she did. Just completely hilarious. And what we saw is that she brought this out saying that Trump needs to write her a check for $1 million now because she proved that she is Native American, which she completely isn't.
I gotta say, what was it, a day ago, 2 days ago when this happened, it was it was like I was in Twilight Zone. I woke up and every news media is like, Elizabeth Warren is Native American. Elizabeth Warren takes DNA tests. She's Native American. She's Native American. She's Native American, right? So, you know me, I'm average college student, go to class, take a test, do a presentation, something like that. I get out of class, I go on social media, go on Twitter, and everyone's like, Elizabeth Warren is so white. She is not Native American. Elizabeth Warren is like white. Like it just flipped. The news cycle flipped within like 8 to 12 hours. I was like, what the hell? Like everyone went from saying, okay, now she is because she took the test, to realizing how insignificant that meant. And then what was it? The Cherokee Nation came out against her.
Yeah, the Cherokee Nation came out against her. They sent their public relations person, I think it was the public relations person, and basically said that she is not Cherokee, she's not Native American. She needs to stop saying it because it's insulting. They talked about how DNA tests do not prove tribal citizenship, and it's very insulting to people who take DNA tests. It makes taking DNA tests a big joke, and it's insulting to people who have kept track of their ancestry and can actually prove lineage to different tribes.
Yeah, and it's weird that you said you said that she's Peruvian, right? That's not even Native American per se.
Yeah, like Incan.
I mean, I guess it's Native American, but it's not what you think of like as North American. It's more of South American, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like the native. It's not the American Indian, I guess you would say.
Yeah. So it means that she had like a Hispanic family member at some point in her family whose family member ancestors had kids with an Incan or like a Colombian native. So her story completely fell apart.
So Elizabeth Warren might be Hispanic.
Yeah, so
might be Hispanic.
She might have more Hispanic than she does Indian, but what's definitely true is that she's more white than the whitest person in Ireland.
It's interesting. I got to say, on one of those articles I was looking at on Facebook about saying, oh yeah, it was said the Cherokee Nation came out against her. I got to say that was the most white liberals I've ever seen in my life telling the Cherokee Nation how they should classify their lineage, you know.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of intersectionality. According to intersectionality, if you're on the left, you get a free pass, and your opinion's only valid so long as you agree with the left and you can prove that you've somehow been disenfranchised.
Well, you know what? I think this actually is the perfect segue to our next topic. Our topics just line out perfectly today, man. We did a great job. Louis Farrakhan goes full racist once again. Or I guess anti-Semitic is the better term. He comes out against Jews, calling them termites. But hey, this is nothing usual. I mean, this is nothing unusual, right? This is very usual behavior.
Of course, his full quote was, he said, "I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm anti-termite." So basically calling the Jews termites. And of course, he's going to get a free pass from everyone because he is a big speaker in the black community, and so therefore the left sees him as an intersectional leader, and therefore if he says something racist, it's not real racism because of power imbalances. So, and this is the problem with intersectionality. Louis Farrakhan can call Jews termites, and it's okay because the left will view black people as more oppressed than Jews, when it really shouldn't be a contest, especially when the Jews survived. You know, you heard of that one thing called the Holocaust?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, 10 million Jews died. It's pretty awful. So, and Louis Farrakhan's always been one of the worst anti-Semitics, and the left will always cover for him because that's what they do. As long as you agree with the left, you can get away with anything.
Wasn't he sitting next to, like, Obama and Jay-Z or someone at Aretha Franklin's wedding?
Yeah, and he also...
Oh, it was Bill Clinton.
Was it Bill Clinton?
Bill Clinton and Obama, I think. Yeah, they were sitting, like, right next to Louis Farrakhan at Aretha Franklin's wedding.
He also got invited to the Obama White House several times. And what's worse is that, you know, the Jews have been such persecuted throughout time, but the left has never actually seen them as an oppressed people in the eyes of intersectionality.
Even think about what I said on the last podcast. I mean, Louis Farrakhan is despicable. He way more than I think I would ever classify Donald Trump as being. I mean, he is that part of the left that is actually, there are apologists for him. People support him. So he's someone that's so despicable on the left that they just give a pass to. I would say he's worse than Donald Trump. I really would.
He's way worse. I say he's a very bad man. He's very racist, very anti-Semitic. But what's really interesting is that he put this on Twitter too. He said, "I am not anti-Semitic. I'm anti-termite." He put that on Twitter. And so people started reaching out to Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, and said, "Hey, why isn't he banned yet? This is just the latest racist thing he said, so why haven't you banned him?"
Yeah, didn't Alex Jones got banned on Twitter? No, it was a little bit later, but he actually is banned on Twitter, from my understanding.
Yeah, Alex Jones is banned on Twitter for saying crazy things, but his crazy things weren't racist. He just said crazy things. But Louis Farrakhan is just a racist, and Twitter refused to ban him because they said that he did not break any of their guidelines, which is really scary because you're going to ban Alex Jones for supposedly breaking guidelines because you don't like what he says, but not Louis Farrakhan, who's actually saying anti-Semitic remarks. That's really scary, and that shows where the social media is moving right now. They're moving to censorship and covering up ideas they disagree with because they think that right-wing ideas are evil. If you look at the videos out on YouTube of Trump's election, you can actually find people at like Google and Microsoft crying the day he got elected and talking about how they need to do something about it. So it is pretty scary because our entire lives are on Facebook and Twitter, and that's where we get a lot of our news from. So if these social media companies start covering up for these people and start censoring views they disagree with, that's going to get really dangerous really quick, and that's fundamentally un-American.
Yes, this is a lot of the BS that we've been dealing with as people that are more right-wing or conservative, but just a lot of Americans in general have been dealing with social media companies. And I'm definitely an advocate for limited government, but I feel like there should be something that we can do as individuals or that the government can do to hold these businesses accountable to their terms of service. Like, if you're going to we have to have the terms of service, right? Like, I mean, this is the business contract. Ultimately, these companies are violating their own contract. So they need to be held responsible for what they're doing. But, I mean, if you want my honest opinion, I think we should just get rid of these type of places and go to a more decentralized style of social media where we don't have a centralized body governing it. It's just open for the media. It's open for anyone who wants to put it out there and without censorship.
Well, there is an important thing to note. When these social media companies start engaging in censorship and covering up ideas they disagree with and promoting ideas they do agree with, they are no longer a neutral platform. They do become a publisher at that point. And in the future, we might see a really big case coming out of this because eventually someone is going to get tired and sue them for being a publisher. And that means when you're a publisher, you're responsible for all the content on your site. Therefore, if someone has ever accused you of something or said libelous or slanderous things against you, that would make Twitter and Facebook responsible for that because they are becoming a publisher and not a neutral platform. Therefore, they would have to pay all these legal fees because that means that they allowed this slander and this libel to happen. So if they keep engaging this type of behavior, you'll definitely start seeing some lawsuits coming up in the future. And it makes me wonder what's going to happen.
Let me ask you a question. Most people that I know haven't heard about this. And you know I'm in the Libertarian movement. Have you heard about the 800 Libertarian-ish pages that have been deleted?
I had not heard of it until you told me just earlier today.
Right. And even our producer, Jordan, that's in the studio right now, he used to be the chapter president of YAL at UH. He hadn't heard of it, really. And I exaggerate a little bit by saying they're all libertarian, but 800 pages that are anti-establishment, pro-liberty, pretty much this type of anti-establishment movement that you find in the libertarian movement that's pro-marijuana, that's pro-limited government, that might be anarcho-capitalist, that talks about cryptocurrencies, talks about policing the police. 800 pages deleted from Facebook. Same type of claim that we saw with Alex Jones. Oh, they violated our terms of service. But yet, we see people all the time, especially on Twitter, but other social media platforms that say anti-Semitic things and say some really crazy things, and they never get deplatformed. And this is really weird, and this is something that even leftists and liberals should be concerned about. The Police got taken down from Facebook. The Free Thought Project got taken down from Facebook. Anti-Media got taken down from Facebook. I say these are libertarian-minded pages, but really these are almost single-issue pages as well. And these are all pages that I know many people really know and love, and they just got wiped out. Millions or thousands of likes, all gone overnight.
Yeah, that's really crazy. And it just goes to show that these social media companies do have a bias. They don't like opinions they disagree with. And, I mean, you remember James Damore from Google, right?
Yes.
Yeah, James Damore was an employee at Google, and he created memos saying that the best way to actually encourage more diversity, Google, is not through forced diversity, because that becomes discriminatory. And he said we should be trying to encourage women to go in these fields, but not forcibly doing diversity practices in these companies. And they went wild over it, and he got fired right away just for saying something that's true, that you should encourage women to go into fields like engineering, not into and you should encourage women to go into fields like engineering, not forcibly commit your company to these diversity practices, which is discriminatory and discriminates against other people and races because you want to meet these quotas. And so based on that, you can see how far left these social media companies are and how they will censor these views. And this also goes to the Democratic Party. The reason they're so scared is because the Democrats hate that they allow opposing viewpoints on these. They hate that Trump has a platform on Twitter, which is why they've been threatening to put in a bunch of regulations against these companies and to trust bust them and things like that. These social media companies are scared of the Democrats because the Democrats think that they should be promoting leftist ideals instead of being a neutral platform.
We'll be right back with a clip from Ben Swan.
The biggest one-day purge yet, as Facebook has removed over 800 fan pages and personal accounts for allegedly spamming users and getting paid for political content. It's the purge we've been warning about.
That was investigative journalist Ben Swan, someone that I'm a big fan of. I've been following since I became woke. Woke. Since I became woke, or since I became a libertarian, since I realized.
Is it woke or is it red-pilled?
Both.
Both.
Either one. Since I heard of Ron Paul, since I became a libertarian or a constitutional conservative, I started listening to Ben Swan, and he really investigates many things, and has a show called Reality Check where he really tries to get down to the bottom of things and give it to you, no BS. If you look at him, he's obviously a libertarian, but he really comes from an objective point of view at the same time. So that was Ben Swan talking about how all these accounts have been taken down. It's the purge we've been warning you about since Alex Jones. A lot of people, they thought, oh, good thing Alex Jones got purged. I saw a friend of mine that was like, yes, before it happened, he was like, yeah, Alex Jones needs to be deplatformed. But you don't realize once you knock down one domino, the rest go. Now, last segment I was talking about how we need to have this decentralized platform. And we have a few of those out there. Steemit is one of them, where you have DSound and DTube. I'm on there. It's not very popular. It's not super easy to use. It's not super complicated either. But there are other social medias that have easier interfaces. Ben Swan apparently is coming out with something his own that is going to be similar to Steemit, from my opinion, I don't know. From what he said, it seems like it's going to be cryptocurrency based, apparently, I believe, and it's going to be decentralized. So it's going to be open for journalists, any type of media, anybody that wants to come there and publish their content without being taken down, without being deplatformed.
Can you describe what cryptocurrency based means?
So it's actually a little bit hard to understand and hard to explain. I would say look into Steemit. But with Steemit, what you can do is if you have really popular content on Steemit, you can actually make money or you can make cryptocurrency. So imagine if Facebook was doing this, right? So every time someone liked your page or liked your post, you would make a little bit of cryptocurrency. That's kind of how
All right.
it is. It's a little bit complicated to understand, but if you look into Steemit, they make it a little bit. Maybe someone can explain it to you if you look it up on YouTube or something like that for the listeners. But Steemit.
It's really important that we get more conservative creators out there to create these websites that can compete with Facebook and Twitter, because I know it looks like these websites and these companies are just giant monsters that can't be taken down, but that's not true. History of businesses has taught us anything. It's that companies can be taken down, and they will. No company lasts forever, and usually don't even last more than 50 years, especially after the owner dies and it passes on to their children. What you see is usually a decline in the company, or someone else takes it, especially whenever someone else creates a new product or creates something better that usually overtakes it. So these companies are not always here to stay, but they will be as long as no one comes forward to challenge them. So what we need is some conservative or libertarian creators to come out and to create a neutral platform where all free speech is guaranteed. So we don't have people banning, because we don't have these companies banning people like Alex Jones for disagreeing with him. And look, I think Alex Jones is a nutcase, but if they can come after him and take his rights away and attack him over his views, they can do it to you.
So let's go into our next topic. Do you want to lead in on this, John?
Yeah, sure. So as of the Brett Kavanaugh thing, we heard the feminist and the Democratic Party say #BelieveAllWomen, because women never lie. Now, I agree that if a woman comes out with a claim of sexual assault, we should take that seriously. But like I said, on the Isaiah factor, you have to vet these claims. You have to make sure that they can be proven and verified, so we're not throwing people in prison for false accusations. It's called due process, and it's the center point of the American Constitution and American democracy. And here's just some proof that not all claims are equally valid and not all claims are true. So there was a high school boy who was actually accused of sexual assault by 3 different females. And the high school he was from was
Seneca Valley School District in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and so basically what happened is that he went to this party, and a girl, the next day, a girl accused him of sexual assault and said that he put her on the bed and tried to force himself on her. So he went to court and he got fined for it. And then he went to another party later because a different girl invited him. And after that, the girl said that he broke into her house and raped her. And so he got fined again, and he made a plea bargain with the court in which he said he was guilty. And what happened was they put a ankle brace on him, so he couldn't leave his house. And the only place he could go to was his front yard so he could mow the lawn. And as it turned out, these girls were Snapchatting their friends, and they started talking about how they made all these accusations up because they didn't like him. And so they wanted him to be expelled from school. And so these people on Snapchat actually brought this to the police and said, hey, they made all this up. And what's amazing is that nothing happened to the girls after that. So it turned out both their sexual assault claims were both false, and nothing's happening to the girls. The school's not doing anything, and the courts aren't doing anything. They're getting off scot-free. And this kid's life was ruined over this. He's going to have this hanging over his head for the rest of his life. He had to wear an ankle bracelet.
Yeah, I heard that they even kicked him out of extracurricular activities after pleading to the bar. After pleading, he was no longer allowed to be on the baseball team, or wasn't allowed to be on it, because he was representing the school, and they didn't want someone like him representing the school.
Right, and this just goes to show that false claims do happen, and they can be very destructive, and we should take them. So we should always take claims seriously, but we have to vet them so something like this doesn't happen. If it can happen to him, it can happen to you.
One of the saddest things about it is that his lawyer convinced him to take a plea bargain when he was innocent. It's mind-blowing that would be the case. That okay, not only are we happening to it twice, but you might as well plead to it because you're already guilty.
Right, and but sometimes people have to do that. I mean, what happens if he didn't plea and the court found him guilty, even if he was innocent? He would be in a much worse situation. He might even go to jail, or prison for a long time. So taking this plea deal did give him the opportunity to, or did present the opportunity finally to show that these girls were lying. And what I'm glad about is that his family is suing these girls because clearly nothing's going to happen to him. So they are trying to sue him, and I hope something comes to that because he does deserve justice, and they do deserve to pay for their crimes.
And John and I, we were talking about this while we were on our way into the studio today. And we were talking about how this relates to the Me Too movement, and essentially, it's just like you said, John, on the Isaiah factor. We have to listen, and we have to make sure that we can verify these claims with evidence. And we should always be talking about the Me Too movement. We shouldn't only be talking about the Me Too movement when something happens. There should be a conversation that we're talking about all the time to make sure that if and when something happens, that women should feel comfortable coming forward, and they should be encouraged to then. And also, we should make sure that, like you said, that these are verified facts and there's evidence to back up the claims. And we shouldn't just be throwing people into plea bargains or into jail or into essentially giving up their lives just because someone claimed sexual assault.
I agree. And if you're going to accuse someone of sexual assault and it's a false claim, then what you're doing is you're actually taking real sexual assault cases and delegitimizing them. You're making them you're making a mockery of women who actually have been sexual assaulted, because now people are going to see that and they're going to say, oh, well, how can we trust women when this is clearly happening?
It legitimizes the I'll go ahead and say it. It legitimizes the deplorable people, right? It legitimizes the people on the right that are despicable people, because there's despicable people on both sides. It legitimizes the trolls on the right that says, oh, well, screw it, It legitimizes them, and then it also it brings that terrible talking point forward. Well, oh, hey, look, this happens all the time, so we can't, don't just believe women. It's just what the Democrats want. I mean, we have to approach all these situations from a logical and objective point of view, and not from a partisan or a he versus she perspective.
Of course. So let's go into our next topic now, and I think we actually have a message from two really different people, but I think they work really well together.
Absolutely. We got a message from our President Donald J. Trump and Mr. Ron Swanson.
I'm going to ask each of you to come back with a 5% budget cut.
Let's make it an even 40.
If you can do more than 5, some of you will say, hey, I can do much more than 5.
Slash it.
Ron, a lot of people are going to get fired. Do you mind trying not to gloat?
Yes, I do, Florence. I do mind that.
Get rid of the fat. Get rid of the waste. And I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure everybody at this table can do it.
I'm very excited about this. I made penance.
Man, I love Ron Swanson. He's so great, and he expresses exactly what I think me and Michael both feel about this. Trump says he wants to do a 5% decrease of all the executive departments. That's great. I want it to be even more. In fact, I want these departments to disappear entirely. Department of Education, I want to see gone. Department of Housing and Urban Development, I would like to see gone. The EPA, I want gone. So the truth is we don't need most of these departments, and they're a drain on taxpayer dollars.
So yeah, no, I feel you. I'm in the same boat. When he said 5%, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump, but I love when he walks in like a businessman and he's just like, hey, look, we're going to do it. You can do it. 5%. I believe in you. Let's go. Make America great again. I'm like all for it. Let's cut some spending. He brought up the penny plan. He said that we could do it in a couple of years or whatever, over 5 years. He's like, hey, how about the $5 plan? I'm down with that. Let's cut some spending with be a 5% instead of 1%.
That's great. And the truth is we do need some spending cuts in this country. We are spending an extraordinarily amount. And it's really important because we have a $21 trillion debt, and that bill is going to come due one day, and if we're not ready to pay it, it's going to be awful for us. So we need to start paying it now, and that's why I think it should be more than 5% cut, because 5% isn't enough. But even if we cut all of these branches off entirely, or all these departments, what's going to happen is that we still won't have enough money to start paying off the national debt. What we really have to do is we have to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. These take up about 75% of our entire GDP. They are insanely expensive, and all of our spending on these is what's causing our debt to rise so high. It's not usually the military or overseas spending, as most people say. It is the services. It is Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And I think these are what really need to start getting cut if we want to start protecting our economy and bringing the debt down or reducing it.
For sure, cut the entitlements. I think we also need to cut some warfare too. Welfare and warfare. Let's cut the guns and butter. But ultimately, I think this is the best note to end on after coming through the two segments that we've gone through. We've had some good news. We've had some bad news. Actually, we've had not really a ton of good news besides Justin Lurie being an awesome Republican. But this is some good news, and this is a good way to end the podcast. Trump is coming in as a fiscal conservative. Finally, I love it, and John loves it.
Thank you so much for listening to Liberty Talks podcast. We'll be back here next time, and we hope to see you again. Спасибо, товарищ.